What's up, you guys? This is going to be a total body workout utilizing a Weider Ultimate Body Works and a kettlebell. And as always, especially with this video because I'm using the kettlebell, I will link equipment links down below. And it's always helpful if you guys like and subscribe to this content if you guys like it and you want to keep seeing workouts. Any feedback is always beneficial. Something else I thought I was going to get into as well was going to be just some discussions I have on diet, and even just kind of a little bit about being, not obsessing about fitness and diet, especially because I've gone that direction. I think it's really a waste of time. So I thought I'd kind of go not in really an all-encompassing video about my diet, but I thought I'd talk about that a little bit because people have asked questions about that. I will timestamp that down below when I'll get into that discussion. It'll likely be after some of the exercise stuff, but as always, you can look down below, timestamp the actual circuits of the exercises, as well as links, like I said, to the equipment. And this first sequence is very basic. It's basically a press into some rowing, and then also some a kettlebell swings. And again, this was a total body workout. I'm mentioning I've been kind of doing some total body stuff this last week or so. And so, and this is that bread and butter row that I always love, with two clips connected to one. And the reason I love the kettlebell for a number of reasons. For years I've had that one. That was an American made. The company is Lifeline. They're not USA made anymore, but they were. I think everybody should have a kettlebell that is, even though a minimalist type of training and what I like. I think it is something that has a low footprint. It hits all the cylinders that I like, specifically on this channel. Kettlebells are useful if you want to work out outside, you want to travel, throw it in your car and go somewhere. I think for me, this is the only kettlebell I own. I've always debated about getting another bigger one. Males, I think the nice sweet spot for weight is 35 pounds or 40 pounds. Females, I would say 25 pounds is that sweet spot if you're looking for one. Just like everything on Amazon, they kind of go in and out of stock. So down below, I link a good one. I think was a decent one down below. There used to be a problem with like cheap metal coming from China, which is why I used to never want to get anything that wasn't made in the USA. Unfortunately, USA made kettlebells are kind of hard to find, and so I actually trust, I think, some of the bigger companies that are made in China anyways. But it used to be a problem with like rust and lead and stuff. Long story. But before I get into a lot of other things, this kettlebell swing is one of those great exercises. I count it as a leg exercise, only in the sense that I'm really kind of focusing on my glutes, posterior chain, hamstrings, and glutes, but really the glutes. And I think it's just a good overall exercise for a number of things. It's just like anything else. You have to ease into it, because some people do this and they kind of throw their back out, or their back starts feeling sore, their neck feels sore, they're not tucking the shoulder blades back. They're doing more of a squat to raise when it's really a snapping of the hips. But I love the kettlebell swing. I think it's a very beneficial exercise. Just like everything, though, you gotta kind of start slow with it. But especially on working those atrophied areas where people don't necessarily work. If anything alone, I'm not just saying this, I would have a kettlebell just to do that exercise. Now, that's not to say that's the only thing you can do. In fact, I've done many great workouts where I just have one kettlebell and I barely move from a little kind of square area, and I'm just beating sweat, and I barely moved a step. I just stood in place, worked my whole body with a kettlebell. So I should post more of those. I love the kettlebell. I just got to get back into it. It's just been time off it, and it's something to kind of work yourself back into. Now, towards the end of this workout, I actually cut it short. I was doing a lot of what I like to call kind of freestyle stuff at the end of my exercise session. If you guys want to see that stuff, I'd be happy to post it, but then it's just the videos get kind of long, so I just like to kind of cut it short where all the basic work kind of comes in. All right, so I'm just going to get into some sort of a mini rant here about diet and also lifestyle factors to kind of consider. And to kind of open all this stuff up, I'm basically just wanted to say that, I think I said this in the previous video as well, that, my whole life career revolved around exercise science, kinesiology, strength conditioning. I only say that because I've gone to many seminars, certifications, have been obsessed with learning as much as I can about not just exercise science, but sport nutrition in general. To the point where I would say that was one of my primary motivations and interests, was learning about nutrition, and got really into all the different fads that I think is normal to people that start learning about all this stuff. They want to learn, and they want to learn more and more and more. And what I've come to found that works best for me, and I think is the best approach, a quote unquote holistic approach, is to find something that works for you. And so I'm going to get into some specifics, but it's really hard to get in specifics in a short period of time. But I wanted to give some general concepts to kind of think about that I think will help most people, and kind of to share where I'm at right now. I think the idea of like, whenever you start hyper focusing on like fad diets and finding the certain magic macronutrient ratio, or focusing on like phytonutrients and micronutrients, and worrying about food intolerances, you start going down, you're going to go down rabbit holes that you didn't necessarily want to go under. And this is something from, again, who's gone over, probably had experimented with every single fad diet there was, from paleo to vegan to metabolic typing back in the day was huge, to low carb diets. I never got into keto diet because I knew deep down I wouldn't be able to sustain that because I just loved carbohydrates too much. I did very high carbohydrate, low fat diets, and in fact, of all the diets, I'd say that one I can lose the most amount of weight the fastest. But that's my point, is you don't want to focus on those things. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a valid goal of wanting to lose weight for health reasons, and maybe you want to gain weight for some sort of performance reasons. Those things are definitely good goals, but you have to be careful on the means that you get there. So the easiest example I give to people is, just recognizing one big concept is that when you want to do periods of extreme weight loss or extreme weight gain, that is in some ways a stress to the body, right? And sometimes a stress is needed to form adaptation. But if we think of, like, there was the famous Biggest Loser study, they took the Biggest Loser weight loss contestant show, whatever, and they essentially studied them for a period of time, at least a small portion of them, and a number of them gained the weight back. Not only gained the weight back after the competition, but they also lowered their resting metabolic rate, meaning their metabolism essentially got worse, which basically makes sense. And the point is, whenever you do like crash workouts, like really hard workouts with really big caloric deficits, your body senses that as a stress. So your body kind of likes the status quo. I'm not saying you always have to keep the status quo, especially if your health is in jeopardy. But there's something to be said for, if you're worrying about like getting rid of these little love handles or worrying about extra body fat, and you're obsessing about it to the extent that it's causing you stress, when really sometimes it's just a part of nature, it's part of your build, it's part of your physique, that if you're trying to fight that off through diet, and I see this so many times, that it's just something that I feel like can really just be counterintuitive. And that's kind of the idea I'm trying to people to think about, is that these actions that you do have a big effect, and people will be surprised, I think, in the effect that it has. So when I think back of like all these different diets that I found, the idea why you're doing these diets, right, is to like maybe you want to look better but also feel better and be more healthy. It's amazing that I feel like I've gone back to the point now where I really do not care at all what I eat. I think I'm at a nice sweet spot where I wouldn't say I really worry about everything that I eat. I worry about maybe I don't eat too much, but at the same time, I'd be lying if I said when I eat dinner, I'm like watching my portion sizes. I don't do that whatsoever. I think there is a point though. I've had periods where I was a lot bigger and I was like 225, but I was in a habit of really just stuffing myself throughout the day. So I think there's a point of fine tuning that little. That what works for you as far as the food amount and the types of food. I think there's obviously truth to that. So, going through all these different diet experiments, even tracking my diet for almost 7 years consistently. I had MyFitnessPal apps going back that long, where I was trying to find like literally this secret macronutrient ratio, trying to fine tune everything. Before I'll stop really quick and say, this is this perfect push-up. I really love these perfect push-ups. If you're going to use this exercise, I've been doing this exercise a lot, and it actually kind of warrants having that pair of perfect push-ups. I did link that down below, because if you do have if you're on hard flooring, or if you're not even don't have those and you have your feet elevated, that can kind of hurt your wrist. So apologize for kind of jumping in the middle of this, but I just wanted to say that about this particular exercise. And then I do go into this, and I kind of lost track as I was talking here. I go back into these deep squats again. That I picked this up again because really, I mentioned in the previous video, I kind of missed doing deep squats. I used to do like sets of 100 of them and feel fine. Even though these look kind of easy, I was actually kind of struggling with just these. I was doing reps of 25 in each of these sets, and I was kind of surprised, which basically shows me my leg, or at least muscle endurance, my legs is a little weaker, which kind of goes back to everything I'm kind of saying right now. It's that, maybe is this really something to worry about? Do I need more leg strength? That's really up to you. I mean, it's up to like your level of functionality. My legs, do they really bother me? Am I having pain in my knees? Do I need extra leg strength for something? These are kind of the things we have to think about, and then relate them not just to exercise, but also to diet. I'm not saying maybe you want a goal, you just want to have stronger legs. Nothing wrong with that. Then you would have to, do some heavier weight, loaded leg things. But this goes back to diet. What is the purpose of getting the single digits, body fat percentages? This is the kind of thing I always talk to people when I start discussing with them. Not that they don't have valid goals, but I want them just to think about what these goals are having, and also the jeopardy that they might be having on their body. Because the point is, there's always a pro and con to everything we're doing, with exercise, even to diet. From something as simple as the longer you exercise, that might be great, but you're taking it away from something else. in your life that could be equally important. So there's no shortage of things that you can worry about or think about with regards to exercise, nutrition. In fact, I'd argue you'll be distracted on your goal because you'll be learning about something else new and something else you'll be worrying about. You'd be surprised, and I'm sure you guys can expect the number of questions I get and I have gotten about something as like minimal about like, what's the specific time of creatine to take, at what amount, how much, can I have, 4 grams of carbohydrates while I work out. All these things, I'm not saying they're not valid, concerns. You can think about them, but the point is, you lose the forest for the trees. Again, I've said that example many times. So with diet, some specifics, and I know I'm ranting here, but I'm trying to give the big context. For me, find what works for you. I know I don't believe in really fad diets. Not to say people might have, different ways they metabolize these macronutrients a little bit different. I think you kind of mess with it. I think a good thing for most people at some point in their life is to take a mental break if you have a history of obsessing about these things. Now, granted, if you do need to lose weight for, legitimate health concerns, I would say, and by the way, there is such a thing. I'm not saying like there isn't like this way of, certainly you can be overweight and be unhealthy, but there's some people that just have a bigger build and they're fighting that build. In fact, I see that a lot. There's people that have just larger bone frames. They're actually meant for kind of heavier lifting, to give a big exercise example, and they want to get down to like looking like a gazelle runner, and vice versa. The people that have just smaller frames that want to look like, a power lifter. That's not going to happen. That's genetics. So you can fight that as much as you want, and maybe you can win that battle to a certain extent, but I would argue that your body's going to be fighting back in some form of stress, whether that's immune system or something else. That's what my personal experience has found. So my advice would be, if you're trying to lose weight, just start small. I know that sounds like a really bad example, and there's a lot of specifics I could talk about if I knew someone's situation, but find something small that you can take out that over time your body's going to have to essentially get used to you not having those calories. I don't even like necessarily the calories in, calorie out model, because that's a too simplistic model approach to also look at as well. But I would just say, lose weight slowly, gain weight slowly. Don't do anything in extreme. That's a very simple takeaway message. I can give a lot more specifics, and if you guys want more specifics on any of these things, in fact, I do plan in the future getting specific with diet. But these are some general things to kind of think about, because these are things I know, especially as the quote-unquote New Year's coming up, people get kind of concerned about like what's the perfect diet to eat. But again, personal specifics, people ask about this. For me, my breakfast is pretty much basic. It's bacon and eggs, sometimes bacon and sausage. I'll have waffles. I mean, I eat white bread. My wife sometimes buys like the fancy like Ezekiel type bread. I'll eat that sometimes, but with butter. And by the way, I always found this too. Like, I was one of the thought many years ago on my quote-unquote clean eating days, like chicken breast, broccoli, and tons of salads, that believe it or not, my blood work got better eating kind of whatever I want. I'm not saying I'm sitting at home eating Doritos all day and just eating all junk food. My point was, I essentially do eat whatever I want. I mean, I have a beer almost every night with dinner. I try and keep the diet somewhat low stress, but I eat within my means, which I feel like kind of fills me up. I try and get a variety of foods a little bit, but pretty much my breakfast is pretty much what you just said. So there's some days I get fast for religious reasons, so that happens sometimes. And then at dinner time, it's pretty much I eat whatever I want. I mean, I'll eat like mashed potatoes and steaks. I like kind of full flavor meats. That's what I do. Pastas and stuff like that. So there's really nothing I'm adverse to. Obviously, I eat what I kind of like. But the big thing is I don't stress about it. I think you definitely can have too much energy in the form of calories, which I think is bad for you. Right? Too much glucose in your bloodstream, too much triglycerides in your bloodstream is a bad thing. But that comes back to, again, not so much just the diet and what you're eating, but it's not just purely exercise. It's the whole picture. It's your sleep. It's your overall stress. It's how you manage and regulate your day. But I'd say overall, if I had one common theme, it'd be you got to regulate your stressors. Basically, I know it sounds really simplistic, but if you just try and fight off like you're feeling quote unquote healthy just with diet and everything else isn't in check, like you hate your job or you're depressed about something. Or you're just, like I said, you're just, as a good example of people I know, you're overly obsessed about tracking calories. I mean, your food should not be a place that brings stress in your life, is basically what I'm trying to say. And what I found is, which is natural, I think, the more you get into, and it's actually proven, actually, if you look at studies that people that have eating disorders, they don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but there's a lot of correlation with people that are in health professions. A huge percentage, which is bigger than just the general population of dietitians that have eating disorders, and also people that are into like medicine or any other kind of healthcare degree that have eating disorders versus compared to the general population. Now that could be at these types of personalities and people go into those professions, but it could also be that, which I think is true for a lot of people, at least I know for myself, that the more you start learning about exercise, fitness, the specifics about calories and nutrients, the more you start obsessing about them and thinking about them and then stressing about them. So again, I'm not saying these things aren't important. They're not big variables that can improve your life for the better. I'm just saying be careful about what you focus on and stress on. And with diet, I think it's just best to kind of start small. With exercise, you want to change your body, you just have to lift weights, put some tension on the muscles, and most importantly, do things you like. Never do things that you don't enjoy. Which, if I started getting bored with these workouts, like this, that I haven't gone to the gym, I'm sure there'll be a period of time where I want to get back in the gym again. That'll probably happen. I never thought I'd be a person who could work out in my house. I thought I'd be incredibly bored. For me, honestly, I've been getting kind of used to it. But I still have my gym membership. In fact, in the near future, I am going to record a gym video, probably. So I will do that. But with diet, my main message to you guys in this long rant, and I'm sorry if you got through this part so far and you didn't get anything out of it, is just to not stress about it. I'd be happy to answer any specifics in the comment section, and there is no dumb questions with these things with regards to diet or supplementation or anything. But even supplements, I think I said that in the supplement video, that I spent probably and definitely thousands of dollars on supplements in my youth into my 20s, into essentially not using much now. And I think the younger generation are used to kind of that supplements are kind of a gimmick. But if you're my age, you didn't have all these kind of expose videos about supplements. You were kind of a slave to the magazines growing up, so you thought that was good information. And even the early textbooks talking about the power of sport nutrition, I thought kind of basically put supplements on a pedestal more than they should have been. I do take supplements. I have those linked down below of the general stuff I take, but nothing kind of crazy. As much as I used to take like super formula, expensive multivitamins and things like that, or like special green blends and things like that. Those things I don't take. Now that's up to you. Some of this is your own subjective opinions. I'm not knocking anyone, whatever else practices and what they do. My main message today, if it wasn't totally clear, is that yes, diet is a huge variable. Your genetics are a huge variable, but most importantly, your lifestyle is probably the biggest variable. Definitely, if you're using this machine and you want to see results with this or any form of exercise, there are a lot of factors that go outside of this. I'm just kind of scratching the surface that my main goal, if I make these things and talking about these things, is just don't obsess about them. And that's why I'm doing this very simple machine and showing you guys simple stuff. I could easily talk about complicated things, complicated programming, complicated form and technique stuff, which again could be important. Some people could take some good messages away from this, but my goal in this channel is to make things very, very simple for you guys, that you guys basically just sustain and keep being physically active. So that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments, definitely let me know. I apologize if this was a kind of a ranty video. I'll try not to make too many of these. If you guys like them though, definitely let me know. And again, thanks for watching.